In this lesson, you will learn how to add point of view to your narrative writing. Point of view is the lens through which you as the reader get to see the story. The two questions you're going to ask as you're thinking about point of view in your own writing are who is telling my story or who is my narrator. There are three types of point of view that you commonly see in narrative writing: first person, third person limited, and third person omniscient. I'm going to add a character to this story just as an example. So if I am writing in first person point of view from this hipster dude's perspective, I might write something like, I adjusted my man bun. I'm using pronouns like I and my. I'm actually telling the story. I'm looking at the story through my hipster dude's eyes. Third person point of view is going to be looking at the story as like an outside observer. Like I'm hovering above the story and I'm describing what I'm seeing. There are two types of third person. There's omniscient and there's limited. Omniscient is going to be almost like your God. Like you get to see the character's thoughts and feelings, not only just like describing what you're seeing. So if I'm writing in third person, omniscient, I might write something like, I need coffee. Robbie thought. He grabbed a cup. Okay, so I'm using pronouns like he or his. I'm calling the character by name. But I also, in omniscient, get to see the character's thoughts and feelings. If I'm writing in limited, I might write something. I don't get to write that Robbie that Robbie thought that he needed his coffee. I'm going to have to describe that instead. So I might write something like Robbie's eyes were heavy. He looked tired. He grabbed a cup of coffee. Okay, so again, I'm calling the character by name. I'm using pronouns like he or his. It's still third person, but I don't get to see Robbie's thoughts and feelings. So before I ever choose whether I'm going to write in first, third limited, or third omniscient, look at how we actually get started, like thinking about the character or thinking about like what motivates him or what's going to happen in the story. So when I start to think about the character, I'm going to ask things like, what do I know about my character, or what does he care about? What motivates him? Like, how are we going to develop point of view in the story? So I'm going to ask you to start, even if you're not writing and thinking about who's my character, who's my main character, what motivates him, what does he care about. So I'm just going to brainstorm some ideas. So if I have a hipster dude, maybe he like lives on Capitol Hill. He works at a coffee shop. He's like super into the environment and helping people. Maybe he's like very like chill, might be an adjective I use to describe him. So once I know like who he is, what he cares about, or like cares a lot about people, he's like Capitol Hill, like environmental, yogi, chill dude. Who is my main character? Because that's going to help me think about which point of view I want to choose. So I want to start, character, because my character is really going to help me decide which point of view to choose. So I'm going to start by thinking about who is my character. What does he care about? What motivates him? So I'm going to say that my character, this hipster dude, he lives on Capitol Hill. Maybe that he works at a coffee shop. He's like an environmentalist, maybe. He's like super into like caring about people. Maybe he's kind of an activist. Okay, so now that I kind of know him, I want to think of this like Capitol Hill living, works at a coffee shop, environmentalist, super into caring about people, activist, about what happens in the story and how is my narrator, so that how is he going to respond or how is he going to feel about what happens in the story. So let's say that in the story that there is a my questions now. What happens in the story, and then how is my hipster dude gonna feel or respond to what happens? How is my narrator gonna feel or respond? So let's say that my narrator, working at a coffee shop, there is a stray dog that like wanders into the coffee shop. Okay, so being my like chill yogi, I could my like chill coffee shop working, no qualms hipster living on Capitol Hill, when he sees this stray dog, like I'm guessing he's gonna be like super empathetic. Even though the dog's dirty and kind of grimy and he should probably worry about like health codes, he doesn't. He's like, I'm gonna love this dog. He wants to make sure that it's like fed and taken care of. Okay, so let's try writing from my point of view. Start to think about like what happens in the story and how would my character then feel or respond to what happens. So I'm gonna say that in my story that my hipster dude is gonna he's gonna find like a little like stray dog sitting outside the coffee shop. And so he's gonna like have to decide like what to do with this stray dog. Okay, and then I'm gonna ask myself like then what would the character feel or how would the character respond to this stray dog? So maybe that my my hipster dude is going to like want to like take care of this dog, or like clean him up. So how my hipster dude like finds this stray dog and cleans him up and takes care of him in my story, then and how he's gonna respond. How is he gonna feel or how would he respond based on who he is? So I'm gonna add a puppy to this because I love dogs. So I'm going to say that in my story that my hipster dude sees this kind of like stray dog. And maybe the dog is like outside the coffee shop. And so I want to think about like what is he going to do about this? If he really that my hipster dude is going to like want to like take care of and like clean up and feed this stray dog, right? He's gonna want to like take care of this dog. So now I guess the big question: Do I now want to tell do I want to tell the story from first person? Do I want to see the story through my hipster dude's eyes? Do I want to see him like see the dog for the first time and his emotional response to that? Or do I want to be like this like hovering God-like figure up in the air looking down on the story and I get to watch his interaction with the dog? Which person, if I jump back, I'm going to which point of view. So if I want to tell my story and I want the reader to see this moment where this hipster dude sees this stray dog for the first time and wants to take care of him, if I want my reader to see it through my hipster dude's eyes, I'm going to write it in first person. I'm going to use pronouns like I or my. If I want my reader to see it from an outside perspective, I'm going to choose third person. I can either choose third person omniscient, where I get to see my hipster dude's thoughts and feelings, or third person limited, where I don't. Okay, and if in third person, I'm going to use things like he or his. So let's see, I'm going to choose third person because I want for my reader to see it from an outside perspective. I want them to see his reaction. So choose third person because I want to see what he's like as he's reacting to the character. And I'm choosing, so let's read my third person omniscient story. Robbie adjusted his man bun and looked around the coffee shop. It was a slow afternoon. He would have plenty of time to get some things done. He grabbed a bag of espresso beans and began refilling the espresso machine. "Did you hear that?" Carl yelled from the stockroom. He listened for a second. Nothing. "What are you talking about?" "I thought that I heard crying noise." Carl appeared from behind the door, a bar of Thea chocolate in hand. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. I'm going to choose third person. So here's my example of writing in third person omniscient point of view for my hipster dude. Robbie adjusted his man bun and looked around the coffee shop. It was a slow afternoon. He would have plenty of time to get some things done. He grabbed a bag of espresso beans and began refilling the espresso machine. "Did you hear that?" Carl yelled from the stockroom. He listened for a second. Nothing. "What are you talking about?" "I thought that I heard a crying noise." Carl appeared from behind the door, a bar of Theo chocolate in his hand. He broke off a piece and handed it to Robbie. Robbie shoved the piece of chocolate in his mouth. "I don't hear anything," he said, walking to the door. Suddenly he heard it, a quiet whimper. He peeked outside. Curled up under one of the metal chairs was a dog. He was filthy, his fur matted and full of who knows what. One ear looked like someone had taken a bite out of it. As he watched, he continued to cry. Carl appeared in the doorway. "What are we going to do?" he asked. "I mean, what else can we do? We have to help him, right?" Carl sighed and pulled the towel from his apron. He tossed it to Robbie. Robbie knelt down and reached out for the dog. The dog looked up at Robbie when he felt his touch. His fur was damp and freezing. Robbie tucked the towel around his small body and began to pet his head softly. The dog closed his eyes for a second. Poor guy, Robbie thought. So I chose third person omniscient point of view. You're going to get a choice. To choose either third person limited or third person omniscient. Because you're such a pro at writing in first person, for your flash draft today, I want you to choose a character. I want you to start to think about, you can choose to write it down if you want to, or you can just think about it. Choose a character. What do you know about your main character? What does he or she care about? What motivates him or her? And then I want you to write a flash draft through third person limited or omniscient. So you can either choose to describe the character's thoughts and feelings, or just describe what you're seeing from an outside perspective. I've given you a couple characters down here if you're struggling to think of a character, but you're also welcome to come up with your own character. Get started writing.